Hello, everybody. Today marks an auspicious occasion for the show with no name. After 18 episodes, really? Only 18? I'm gonna make fun of M. Night Shyamalan. Oh goodness, Shyamalan. There are two basic types of bad Shyamalan movies. The ones that make people angry and the ones that make people laugh, and also get angry. There are other examples, but I don't think that these groups are better represented than with these two movies. The Village and The Happening. I don't think I'm spoiling much when I say that these are both terrible movies. When you compare how these two are bad, it's night and day. They're on completely opposite ends of the arbitrary bad movie spectrum. So I'm gonna review both of them today. I always like to save the best for last, so let's begin this escapade with the most needlessly complicated period piece of all time. The Village. I'm just gonna be straight with you. I hate this movie. It ticks me off to no end, and here's the main reason why. The film starts off fine. Yes, I think that the first half of The Village, while flawed, is fine. It has atmosphere, it's shot well, and it's intriguing. The basic plot is that there is this village in the 16 or so hundreds that has monsters in the woods surrounding it. These monsters, or as the village call them, those we don't speak of, by the way, quick tangent. For things that the villagers don't speak of, the villagers sure talk about them a lot. Liars. The monsters are vicious, bloodthirsty, and seem to be attracted to the color red. And at the beginning, before we find, the truth about them, they're actually kind of menacing. The audience never gets a good look at them, and they're actually frightening. That all changes when we find out the truth, but in the meantime, they make pretty cool villains. Characters are fine as well. The acting isn't very good at all, admittedly. In fact, the only good performance is Bryce Dallas Howard as Ivy. She's a blind woman that serves as the protagonist, and I liked her a lot. She was independent, likable, and didn't let the blindness define her. Overall, the first half of the movie is fine. But then the plot rears its ugly head and the narrative completely implodes. The basic plot is that Ivy's fiancé, played by Joaquin Phoenix, gets stabbed, and the only way to save him is to get some medicine from a nearby town. Naturally, since the forest is filled with monsters, nobody has ever tried leaving the village. But the village leaders, called the Elders, let her go out into the forest anyway. They send her, a blind girl, to go out into the forest to go get something alone. Even if there weren't monsters, this would be a dumb idea. By the way, the spoilers begin right now. But as it turns out, there aren't any monsters after all. It was a trick by the Elders to stop anybody from ever trying to leave the village. Naturally, when Ivy hears this, she doesn't question why the Elders want nobody to leave the village that badly, and goes out. So to sum it all up, the terrifying threats that they build up for over an hour were not threats at all. Okay, so Ivy heads down the path at the Elder Center until she comes across the wall. And this is when the movie goes from flawed to infuriating. If you don't know what the twist is, I recommend that you watch the movie right now so that you're sufficiently angry when I start my rant. This is the twist ending. As it turns out, the date is actually present day, and by present day I mean 2004. The village is a secret experiment kept in a park. Park rangers keep the area a no-fly zone and forbid anybody from entering to prevent the illusion from breaking. Ivy, being blind, doesn't see any of the modern things and then goes back to the village with the medicine without ever finding out how rotten of a deal she really has been dealt. Okay, I know that all of you are aware that this twist sucks, but let's take a minute to analyze why it's so stupid. Reason number one, the twist comes out of nowhere. Good twists are built up with subtle hints along the course of the movie. This makes the twist more powerful because things that don't make sense suddenly start to add up. In the village, there's no build-up at all. I mean, sure, the Elders act suspicious, but there's no thing to lead us to believe that they're really from modern times. This could have been easily fixed. Reason number two, it's kind of, annoying because Ivy never questions anything. She doesn't question any of the Elders' suspicious actions and never questions the very suspicious stimuli she gets on the other side of the wall, like the sounds of cars or modern talk. This is so stupid because the movie proves time and time again that she's smarter than this. This means that this twist happens in a logic that doesn't follow the logic of the rest of the movie. Reason number three, the twist does not fit the tone of the rest of the movie. It is so out of nowhere and so ridiculous that it would probably be a much better comedic twist than a dramatic one. But after 90 minutes of build-up, this twist is not a very good payoff. It feels out of place, and there could have been a much better twist somewhere else than this. Reason 4. This is the biggie. The so what factor. A good twist also affects the characters in the movie, not just the audience. The twist at the end of The Village is only to the audience. Ivy goes back to the village completely unaware, Joaquin gets healed, and life continues on just as it always did. The only big reveal is that the elders are even bigger jerks than the audience originally thought. This twist does not work because it's so ridiculous, and it doesn't fit in the tone of the rest of the movie. This is a good example of a twist that doesn't work at all and completely ruins everything. So that was The Village. The very worst thing about it is that it could have been so much more. This is a movie that had potential, and it killed it with one of the dumbest twists of all time. If the twist had been something different, then I probably would be defending it, but as is, the film is one of the biggest disappointments I've ever watched. But enough of that downer. Let's talk about one of the most entertaining movies I've ever watched. The Happening. The basic plot of The Happening is that for some reason, people all over the northeastern US start to violently commit suicide. Now, to the credit of the movie, these scenes are actually pretty scary. They're shot well, paced well, and strike a good balance. But then we meet our heroes, and any chance this movie ever had of ever being taken seriously is thrown directly out the window. How do I put this? The acting of the movie is awful, and I mean really, really awful.
Planning on stealing something?
No, ma'am, we're not.
Plan on murdering me in my sleep?
What? No.
This type of acting can only come from a combination of the actors not trying at all, lousy directing, and lousy writing. This is not anywhere close to how people talk or act. One of the big parts of a disaster movie is showing how the disaster affects normal people. And here, I don't know anybody who talks like this or would do any of these things. And the awful performances are all the more baffling when one considers who's giving them. We have Mark Wahlberg, who was nominated for an Academy Award not 2 years prior, and Zooey Deschanel, who has proven that she can be much more natural and likable. While objectively the acting is probably the worst part of the movie, it is hands down the funniest part of the experience.
Giving off good vibes. We're just here to use the bathroom. Then we're just gonna leave.
I had to laugh multiple times, and this is coming from a person who watched The Room from beginning to end and only laughed once. This film really is proof that something can be so bad that it's good. But it's not just the acting that adds to the silliness. Also adding to it is the film's plot. Like The Village, the actual happening, The Happening, is scary before we know what it really is. It's silent and visible, and above all, scary. You can really feel like The Happening would happen at any time and at any place. And when you consider the fact that it makes tons of people violently kill themselves, that's kind of unsettling. But also like in The Village, when we figure out what The Happening and The Happening really is, it becomes a joke. Spoilers! Okay, I hope you're sitting down for this. Are you sitting down? Alright. Here is what is happening in The Happening. The plants of the world are threatened by humanity, so they're releasing some kind of neurotoxin that blows in the wind. When the toxin comes in contact with a human, they kill themselves. You heard right. Humanity is being killed by plant farts. That is awesome. Seriously, who could possibly not laugh at that? It is beyond stupid, and it gets even more stupid when the movie plays it so serious. I mean, do I really have to explain why this twist sucks? Maybe not, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Reason number 1. Plants aren't very threatening. I mean, they're just plants. This isn't a little shop of horrors, they're just average trees and bushes and stuff. Pardon me if I don't shake my boots. Reason number 2. It's really dumb. Humanity is being killed by plants. How am I supposed to take that serious? Reason number 3. This movie builds it up so much that you're expecting something so much better. Satan, terrorists, aliens. There are so many options that are so much better than plants. Reason number 4. It's really, really dumb. I know this reason is being used twice, but it's so dumb that it's twice as much a reason as the other reasons. Yeah, the twist in The Happening is just as bad as the twist in The Village, but honestly I'm debating over which one is worse. The Happening's twist is certainly dumber, but the twist in The Village is the worst part of the movie. At least in The Happening, there wasn't anything to ruin. But then there's the question if something that's too stupid to hate is worse or better than something that really should know better. That's kind of how I see The Village and The Happening in general. The Happening is a lot worse, but when you consider how funny it is, it doesn't really seem to be that much lower than The Village. So what's worse? A bad movie or a horrible movie that's entertaining? Call it a tie? So kids, what do we take away from this? Well, first off, if you're gonna base an entire movie around a twist, you need to make sure that twist doesn't totally suck. And if that twist does totally suck, at least make sure the journey is funny along the way. So, after 6 awful movies in a row, is it possible that Shyamalan will ever get back on his feet? I try to be optimistic, so I think that he should try to direct a comedy. He hit it out of the park with The Happening without even trying, so maybe he'll do well. But until then, we still have movies like The Village to remind us how not to make a good movie, and movies like The Happening to remind us how to make a bad movie. I'll see you next time.